Jones. I'm Associate Head of the Institute of Sport and Exercise Science at the University of Worcester. Our objective mainly today was to try and summarise those key areas of the contributors' presentations and then look at perhaps getting together some ideas and strategies and actions that we can be using in schools and clubs, in our organisations, in the community, that can try and harness some lifelong habit of exercise in females. The first presentation, The Landscape of Girls' Schools, Sport, Fitness, Sport and PE, and its impact on confidence and body image, delivered by Sarah Winkless, who's obviously an elite rower, touched on some key themes. One was that beliefs can actually stop you from taking part, that you might actually believe some of the perceptions or the statements that are made about girls not being able to be particularly good at sport, not interested in sport, not having the physical competence or capabilities that boys have, and how that can actually in itself sometimes detract or not encourage people to take part in physical activity, or girls not to take part particularly. And so I think for someone that's managed to get through those barriers and become such an elite athlete, it was a really quite interesting message. I think she also talked about the power of working alongside friends to help motivate and encourage and keep you going, give you some self-confidence, some self-belief. That finding the right sport for you is really important, and so what's been touched on in some of the other presentations, where we look at the variety of different activities that people can engage in and being exposed to, and how important that is, so that it gives you scope to find what your body type, your personality type, your interests might be leading you towards. And so, you know, we hear about talent ID and there's sort of opportunities for people maybe to be nurtured quite young in certain sports, but that exposure to lots of different sports is really key, because we might all be very or might have real potential to be very good in some sport that we don't get an opportunity to actually try. And so that was something that she managed to do and worked her way through. And also that idea about having role models to aspire to as well, and how important that is in terms of your inspiration and your desire to succeed. The second presentation, Why Do Girls Throw Like a Girl? Understanding and Coaxing the Core for Sustained Sport Activity Confidence, by Ryan Domain. He started, and one of the statements that both Claire Marie and I picked up straight away was, I don't like that phrase, throw like a girl. Neither do I. It makes people believe that there's an issue with it, and we've probably all experienced negative comments at some point about what girls can and can't do. My philosophy is always that we can do everything that men can do, that we are as capable physically as men are from a very early age, and it's just that socialisation sometimes that makes that difference. Another thing he followed through, and which probably was the key theme in the presentation, was what we would call fundamental movement skills. And it's a challenge as much for boys as girls, but I think we need to treat girls in the same way, particularly at a young age. You know, there isn't huge differentiation. Let's challenge the girls in the same ways that we would challenge boys. The following presentation was from Jenna Smith, How Badminton England Attract Young Girls. Really interesting, inspiring, great energy, and I think that's obviously what the Badminton England have set out to do. So they've gone about breaking down barriers. They've thought about what would attract young girls to badminton. They've done their research, their market research. They've gone out there and got the views of the young people that they want to engage in the sport. These are some of the words that came through: mates, music, badminton challenges, high energy, fun, sociable, interactive, make up your own rules. Great, sounds really good fun, and it's obviously working. She also talked about facilitating rather than coaching, so it's not too serious. that people don't feel they're being put under pressure to necessarily perform. That there's a high degree of autonomy for the girls involved, that there's no competition, but I guess there is competition if they want it, because that comes with having high autonomy. Also that priorities change quickly, that coaching needs to be welcomed, that they can actually develop their skills with their confidence at the time that they feel that's right, and some of them probably will go on to play badminton really successfully. Using music to help engagement, all these little strategies that will be a hook for that activity and want those children, those girls, young girls, to come back and play. The whole idea of exercising without knowing it, so that engaging them in a lot of physical activity, getting them fitter, but they're not thinking about it. And I've thought some really clever marketing to appeal to that target audience. And I think lessons that could be learned from that particular governing body could be transferred quite easily into a lot of other sports and activities. Presentation 4, offering a more holistic approach to physical literacy, from Shannon Pepin-Bivouin. So you talked about the work of Margaret Whitehead on physical literacy, that whole idea of competence, confidence and motivation. There was some resonance with the earlier presentation about the core stability and strength, and I thought there's that whole idea of developing that physical competence again was coming through. And of course Whitehead's work is well renowned, and I think making a little bit more of a comeback in a way. It's becoming something that is talked about again a lot more in terms of how we develop young children and how we also embed that in teacher training as well. And she also referred to Gallagher's fundamental movement skills model, the stability, the manipulative skills, and how important those are. What was interesting was the research that states that girls at the age of 7 still lag behind boys in terms of the development of manipulative skills, so their fundamental movement skills. And I think that's a challenge. What do we do about that? Is it to do with quality of teaching? How can we make our teachers more equipped to deal with that physical literacy aspect, that fundamental movement development, which to me is at the heart of physical education, where sport maybe is an outcome of it. We need primary specialists of PE in schools. Without that level of expertise, those children are missing out on those great opportunities to really develop their motor skills, their confidence, their movement competence. And there is a lot of advocacy going on with AFP. There has been for a long time, to try and get the government to acknowledge that actually putting physical education specialists into primary schools is probably going to be one of the most important things if we want to try and engage and keep an active, lifelong participation, help to improve the health of the nation. It needs to start at such a young age. And with all with all respect to lots of coaches that might go into schools and help with the primary premium, it's not the same as having a specialist PE teacher in the school working with those children on a consistent basis. So I think that was a really clear message that came through and echoed some of the work from Ryan's presentation. And also, in terms of opportunities, so the girls are behind supposedly at 7 years old. I'm sure not all of them, but some of them. And I think it's probably again to do with that whole socialisation and what they do in their spare time. Whereas the boys are perhaps out there kicking a ball around with dad. How many girls are out there playing sport, getting into the clubs? How many clubs are out there that are going to provide those opportunities for young girls of 5, 6, 7, 8? Are there as many as boys' clubs? Are they having the same level of opportunities? What can we do to help improve that? And also that idea, again, I think that's come through about looking beyond traditional games, looking at new sports, new activities, variety of activities, to try and help engage people who may not like that competitive ball game. Presentation 5, attracting girls back into sport outside of school. How the clubs and national governing body, teams and schools can better prepare girls for sporting life, and that was by Joanne Herberson. So here she talks a lot about leaders and coaches with a passion for sport. She talked about creating the right environment, having the right venue, the right coaches, volunteers, unpressured, safe environments where girls felt welcomed. There was a social aspect to what they were doing, that it was fun, and it was all about that enthusiasm and passion for sport that they were trying to generate. Not competing with other sports, the timing of when these clubs were operating was quite key. We do know that often children and parents have quite busy lives. You don't want to be necessarily competing against other activities. So absolutely, it was a great idea to try and time your activities when you knew you're likely to get the greatest uptake. Differentiating the offer based on age, ability, individual needs. Great, knowing your audience, knowing your children, knowing the group you're working with, knowing what the girls enjoy doing, knowing when to challenge and to help them to progress, and knowing when to just make it fun and non-competitive is really key. And having that variety within your programme obviously makes that hopefully sustainable. It means the girls want to keep coming back to that particular club. Don't be afraid to bend the rules. I like that. Go with what is working. Listen to the girls that you're working with. Engaging mums. I also sort of thought about what about the dads and the aunts and the uncles as well, so that the girls are working with different family members. They're encouraging and engaging with them as well. Great that the mums are, and they're the role models as well in that context, but widen that audience. And using the local media to promote the activity. We all know that we don't get enough coverage for female sport at any level. And the fact that you engage, Jo, with your local media, not sure where you are, is a great way of, I think, moving that whole activity forward and getting your message out into the local community. Number 6, growing your club by engaging with older girls. Melissa Anderson. Again, we come back to this theme of knowing your markets, thinking outside the box, trying to provide activities that girls want to do, want to engage with, helping to keep them engaged even when maybe they're not going to progress within that sport. So that whole idea of bringing in cheerleading, it was cheerleading, wasn't it? Yeah, cheerleading and parkour and all the sort of contemporary modern activities that are coming through that are linked to gymnastic ability, dance ability are great. That often does keep people within a sport and helps to diversify it, grows your market, keeps it really interesting. So great ideas there. Again, high quality provision, a well-trained workforce. That high quality provision has to be a theme, whether it's through teaching or coaching. And I think that the efforts that were made to ensure that, and the lovely clip we saw of one of your coaches, emphasise how important that is and what an impact that can make. Again, working in partnership, great. Pull in all the resources you can to help expand your ideas, your messages, engage more people, get some funding. That's really positive idea, and again, something I think from this particular presentation that can be utilised, I'm sure, by lots of other different types of clubs as well. Slightly different approach to timetabling here, but I knew where you were coming from, and I know from the research that was done on the 5x60 programme in Wales, where they put these 5x60 officers into schools to help develop the extracurricular programmes, support the PE teachers because they can't run all of the programmes. Initially, when they put those programmes on, the children that attended were the ones that were already attending all the other clubs as well. So they weren't really reaching out to that wider audience they'd hoped. So putting it against the hockey team practices or the volleyball, whatever it might be, great idea. You do go to a different audience. So I understood exactly where you're coming from with that. So that timing can be looked at in different contexts. And yeah, this whole idea about alternative offer to secure retention. So as gymnasts particularly get older and may not be as active in competitive gymnastics, getting them trained up as leaders and coaches or changing the activity is really, really key, and that does work with that whole lifelong participation perspective as well. Number 7, sport and wellbeing, the school case study, the right mix, all girls or mix, Alice Rogers. Process before product is where you started. What does your marketing depict? So that was really interesting. Is it all about the successful individuals who go on to gain national honours, or your successful school teams, or is it about that whole process of getting people to engage and learning about sport, how they work, their bodies, their whole socialisation? Again, what's really important within your school curriculums? Where is your emphasis going to be? And I thought that sort of message came out quite clearly. We need to get that right balance between competitive sport and fitness. We need to vary the curriculum. Similar messages to some of the other presentations. Variety, contemporary ideas, engage your children in things that are new and modern and fun. Develop transferable skills so they can try lots of different activities, find what they like, do lots of different things, whatever they feel like, but they need variety. So the narrower the curriculum, probably the less engagement you're going to get. You need to have some breadth, and you also need, coming back to that, fundamental movement skills, physical literacy. If the girls are well taught, well coached, they'll have the skills to transfer into the other sports, and hopefully will enjoy them and have the confidence to engage with them. Structure activities to generate achievements and promote self-esteem. Everyone's an individual, so what achievement is to one person will be really different to what it might be to another. And it's recognising that. And I love that whole idea about the coach's report and the corridor where you put up information. You're sharing, making them feel part of an important environment. Physical activity, exercise, also outward bound skiing trips. Again, it is that diversity of experience that you want to try and encourage. Hard work in school sometimes when you might be short-staffed. Who else can you pull in to help? The last really stimulating presentation on social and digital media and its impact on women and girls' sport, body image, fear of judgment, and how this impacts on engagement. And we know it does. We don't need lots of research and statistics and data out there to tell us that. We know it does. So I thought it was a really powerful image-based presentation where the images spoke for themselves a lot of the time. So we are born with a body type, absolutely true, and your body type can change with age, and we need to recognise that as well. Media encourages conformity to an athlete ideal, and how many girls do get put off sport because of that, or end up with dysfunctional body images or eating disorders because of it as well. So it's a really, really big and complex issue, but one that cannot be ignored. So imagery portrayed by the media is more often than not is unreflective of that female population that's engaged in sport. We can't find what is out there already, but we can offer an alternative. And some of the strategies that you were talking about, that whole idea of sharing a range of images in the widest possible way that you can, of girls actively involved, women actively involved in sport, in the action of sport, not just standing, waiting and posing, but actually kicking a rugby ball or bowling a ball in cricket, whatever it might be, fighting in judo. See the action, see the power, see the skill coming through in those images is really important. And I think, I went to the exhibition in KPMG, so I know exactly what you're talking about and how powerful that could actually be. Celebrate diversity and body types. Embrace everybody. Make everybody feel confident. Absolutely right. We need those images out there to show us that that's true. The whole Sport is Beautiful campaign is great. I'm so pleased it's going to roll out into a different and a wider area, nationally, internationally. It's absolutely a great campaign. We love this comment at the end. You can't be I can't read it. You can't be what you can't see. Again, such a powerful message. You know, be who you are, enjoy who you are, and be confident and engage in every form of activity that you'd like to be involved in. Finally, just to sum up then, I think it's really clear that we need to recognise the issues and what they are and how we can make a difference. So just summing up some of the key messages perhaps are clear that there are 3 areas that have been identified by Hargreaves and also the government's interim report on women in sport. And that was about emotional, where women often have or don't have a positive relationship with sport. They've been put off by something at some point, and that's it. So we need to recognise that. How can we counter that? Capability, the feeling they're not good enough to take part. Again, what can we do to deal with that? And we've talked about some ideas, and there's been some clear messages in relation to that today. Opportunity, the time, the cost, the support to take part in our activity is crucial. We need to help provide those, you know, making sure that people can afford it, that it's run classes are run or clubs are run at times when women can engage with them and girls can engage with them. So we need to look at things like how we can improve the coaching force. We've got 1.3 million coaches in the country, but only 30% of that are female. Can we work on that area? Leadership and governance. Approximately 25% of women sitting on national governing boards. I know there's a lot of work being done with different agencies, women in sport particularly, to try and counteract and do research into that. The media, about 7% of female sports coverage in general, whereas we've got a population of about 45% of female TV audience. So lots of things that we sort of need to know the baseline from so we can improve. Just homing in on that a little bit more. So these are the barriers. They've come from the Active People Survey. So parental and adult influence is crucial. Okay, so the negative obviously means that there's going to have a negative impact. Positive will have a positive impact. Body image we've talked about. Male-dominated culture, well, the coaching and the media. I think, you know, there are things there that we can help to improve and work with. Invisibility in the media links with that whole idea about the images that are portrayed and how we can also work with our own successes and our own teams, even if it's on a local level. Promoting that's important, getting those role models out there, making sure we've got access to facilities, building self-confidence, getting the right clothing and equipment. That was quite interesting that you come from that sport clothing industry. Personal safety, making sure funding's in place. Whole load of ideas that we can work on. And really, we've all got stories to tell, but we must be careful not to generalise. We need to be credible, not make assumptions that we can't substantiate. So telling stories, creating perceptions, let's get them to be positive. I think that's the way forward, that we celebrate what we can do. We celebrate our successful athletes. We celebrate everybody that's taking part. So anecdotal accounts are important, but empirical evidence is needed to underpin any interventions we put in place. Remember, females are individuals too, so be careful of the language we use. Women in sport, women don't have a genetic predisposition to throw or run in a certain way. Let's teach people properly from the beginning. And PE has to be appropriate, relevant and delivered by well-trained teachers, and coaching and high-quality coaching needs to follow. And finally, just a little bit about what we're doing at the University of Worcester. We've got a strategy, a 3-year action plan that is absolutely packed, but some of the activities we're engaged with at the moment are working basically initially with our staff and students as our immediate community to get them involved. So we've got a number of projects and campaigns. We have a Wise Week coming up. We've taken the idea of the sport is beautiful, and we've got all of our a lot of photographs from our student sport, female student sport. We've put them into an exhibition and they've gone right over all our campuses. So we're celebrating our female student sport, and also images of people from exercise classes, staff who are engaged in activity. So we've gone across the board to try and make sure that we really encourage and show imagery of women in sport in all aspects and all ages, all sizes. We've got a programme to enhance opportunities for female graduate sport-related employment. So we're trying to build into the academic year workshops which will help to generate business ideas, their whole approach to being able to write CVs and to get good placement opportunities, go for internships, everything we think that's going to help them get employment within the sport industry. I've talked about the focus activity weeks and sustainable opportunities, so we've got a lot of different types of physical activities running next week, from Nordic walking to indoor rounders to staff and student netball. We've covered a whole range of activities which we hope will be sustainable and that they will keep these clubs going. So we've got 3 45-minute sessions going every day for a week. We've got a performance and development sport strand to our strategy. So we work hard with our performance teams, identified teams and individuals that we think have got potential to get to elite level. So they're supported in lots of different ways with sports psychology, strength conditioning programs, top-level coaching, but equally we're trying to work on the development side. With 280 students that turned up for netball trials at the beginning of the year. And so in order to keep them all engaged, we've put in an academy and a development strand and restructured the whole of our netball plan and delivery model. So it's trying to keep people engaged, and if those that don't make teams, try a different sport. We're working hard with Worcestershire County Cricket Club, and they're coming up, they're coaching, they're taking a team forward for us, and we're entering an indoor league. So we're trying new sports as well to try and engage people. And obviously, you know, we're going to do a lot of work in terms of our research. We've got a few projects identified, body image intervention being one of them. And we'll work hard with our students to try and make sure that the curriculum and the course is going to equip them to work in and work with the next generation of young females. And finally, these are some of our role models. These women are in really high influential positions in the sport industry. Some of them have been elite performers themselves, and I think it's important to celebrate and recognise, you know, the amount of talent that's out there in leading positions in sport in our country. And hopefully they will be the type of people that will inspire our next generation to also aspire to be like them and to get involved in the governance and leadership of sport in our country. And some of our sporting teams, I think these 3 teams have outplayed the men's equivalent in England this year. So let's celebrate that as well.